Madam Speaker, as my Republican Party completes its first year in the minority since 1994, we find ourselves held in historically low regard by the sovereign American people. To end this trend, Republicans must accurately assess our party's past and present failings and its future prospects of again providing Americans a meaningful choice between the major parties. This remains, after all, a party's duty to the citizenry. For my GOP to fulfill it, first, we must bury our ideological dead. Safely on this side of the cleansing mists of memory, it is chic to eulogize the late Republican majority. From the chattering class, few insights emerge, for in the aftermath, only poetry is an apt epitaph. Quote, "The world is too much with us late and soon. Getting and spending we lay waste our powers. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon." Such was the Republican bathos. A transformational majority sinned and slipped into a transactional cashocracy. Promises, policies, principles, all bartered, even honor. The majority now is of the ages. May it rest in peace and be redeemed. Once George Santayana cautioned, those who do not learn the lessons of history are condemned to repeat them. If our current Republican minority guilefully refutes or gutlessly refuses to admit, accept, and atone for the bitter fruits of its lapsed majority, it will continue to decline in the eyes of the American electorate. Thus, for the sake of our nation in this time of transformation, we must fully and frankly examine and understand the cardinal causes of the Republican majority's recent demise, and, sadder but wiser, commence our Republican minority's restoration as a transformational political movement serving the sovereign citizens of our free republic. To begin with, we must retrace our steps down a darkened alley of broken hopes to glean the essence of our party's headier times, big hits, and phased cookies. Though many of its legislative leaders may moot the point, two presidents caused the 1994 Republican Revolution: Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton. The members of 1995's new Republican majority were Ronald Reagan's political children. From President Reagan, Republican congressional revolutionaries inherited a philosophy of politics as the art of the possible. Cogently expressed by conservative intellectuals ranging from Edmund Burke to Russell Kirk, this philosophy's central tenet held: men and women are transcendent children of God endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights. Government was instituted to defend citizens' inalienable rights and facilitate citizens' pursuit of the good and of true happiness. Over the generations, divine providence has established and revealed through tradition prescriptive rights and customs within communities, how order, justice, and freedom, each essential, co-equal, and mutually reinforcing, are best arranged and nurtured for humanity to pursue the good and true happiness. Finally, human happiness is endangered by every political ideology, for each is premised upon abstract ideas. Each claims a superior insight into human nature not revealed through historical experience. Each proffers a secular utopia unobtainable by an imperfect humanity. And each demands an omnipotent centralized government to forcefully impose its vision upon an unenlightened and unwilling population. This is the political philosophy and resulting public policies a once impoverished youth from Dixon, Illinois, Ronald Reagan, engagingly articulated to America throughout his presidency in the 1980s. By 1994, the American people, who, having taken Ronald Reagan at Russell Kirk's word that conservatism is the negation of ideology, and remembering its beneficent impact upon their daily lives, yearned for its return. For self-described congressional revolutionaries, this formed fertile electoral ground, one shaped as well, it must be admitted, by a host of unheralded and immensely talented GOP redistricting attorneys. But like all revolutions, the piece required a villain. Enter Bill Clinton. Exuberant at having defeated an incumbent President George H.W. Bush, Clinton mistook a mandate against his predecessor as a mandate for his own craftily concealed liberalism. In his first 2 years in the Oval Office, this mistake led Clinton to overreach on kitchen table issues such as raising taxes and socializing medicine. Daily, the 4-decade-old Democratic congressional majority abetted Clinton's radical policies, and across the political spectrum, voters seethed. Congressional Republicans bided their time, planned their revolution, and seized their moment. Led by their spellbinding and abrasive guru from Georgia, Congressional Republicans unveiled their contract with America to much popular, if not pundit, acclaim. Though much mythologized, if it is to prove instructive for the present Republican majority, this contract can and must be placed in its proper perspective. A musical analogy is most elucidating. When a reporter once praised the Beatles for producing rock's first concept album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, John Lennon curtly corrected him. It was a concept album because we said it was. Lennon's point was this: yes, the Beatles had originally set out to produce a concept album, but early in their sessions the band dropped any conceits to creating a concept album and recorded whatever songs were on hand. Recognizing their failure, the Beatles tacked on a final song, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band Reprise, to engender the illusion they had, after all, created a concept album. Importantly, when the band later tried to produce a true concept album and accompanying film, Magical Mystery Tour, the lackluster result was one of the Beatles' few failed artistic ventures. Similarly, congressional Republicans' contract with America was a collection of specific policy proposals and concrete grievances against the incumbent Democratic president and his legislative allies. It possessed merely an implicit philosophy, one obviously hearkening back to Reagan. Even less than Sgt. Pepper, the individual tracks of which have mostly stood the test of time, today many of the contract-specific proposals sound dated. But like Sgt. Pepper, what endures about the contract is the fact it was marketed as a revolutionary concept in governance. Of course, it is not. The contract was a suitable period piece which served its purpose, the election of congressional Republicans in sufficient numbers to attain our party's first majority in 40 years. Nevertheless, the contract's lack of a clearly enunciated political philosophy with immutable principles sowed the seeds of the subsequent Republican devolution. Therefore, if the current Republican minority buys into the myth and makes the contract the basis of a derivative concept agenda, the GOP will be condemned to another 40-year magical mystery tour through the political wilderness.